Hi, thanks for joining us on AFTERBUZZ TV's Shark Tank After Show. This is Season 8, Episode 7. We are already this far in. We will be talking Eco-Flower, Style Club, Safe Catch, Be Somebody, and an update on Wicked Good Cupcakes, which we cannot wait to taste. We need to figure out how to make that happen. Don't go away.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Zoe was going to get the whole show in there in her open. Now we have nothing more to say.
I thought we'd just go home after the show music, actually. Just wrap things up early tonight. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us on tonight's after show of Shark Tank. This is a great show. We had so many interesting products this week. So before we get started, first of all, if you've been watching for a while, you know that Cameron Lewis has been with us for a while, and but unfortunately not the last few episodes. And unfortunately, Cam won't be able to be part of the show any longer. He had a great opportunity, so he won't be joining us. But the three of us will look forward to sharing your Monday evenings with you, or whenever you happen to watch. So I'm Zoe Hewitt. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Zoe Said What. That's Zoe Said What. And sitting directly to my left.
Wow, you said all that without breathing.
I'm pretty sure I was breathing.
I'm Chris Howard. I am to her left. You can find me at Chris Howard Live on both Twitter as well as Instagram. And to my left.
Oh, to Chris Howard, or CHL to the laypersons. Left is Constance Dunn. You can find me on Instagram at Constance Dunn. Also Twitter, Constance Dunn as well.
Well, getting right into it, their Eco-Flower started the night off. Megan, she was asking for $400,000 in exchange for 10%. And these were basically upcycled flowers that she was making out of various products, bamboo, burlap, recycled paper. What did you guys think? Would you want a bouquet of paper flowers?
No.
Constance?
See, this was such a great segment because I would, and she brought up so many great market ideas and differentials, particularly when Lori was saying, nah, wouldn't work for me. And I loved when Megan talked about, well, the women I talk to have a different story. And that phrase was so great because it was such a great diplomatic way to pivot, to basically say, yes, but the different story is, and she brought up a great concept that has to do with like different socioeconomic class. She goes, Megan said that if somebody spends $50, that's a lot of money on something that's going to be gone tomorrow. And I can really, really relate to that. I'm a very practical pilgrim. I like glamorous things, but especially starting out with my husband when, you know, back in the day, and I remember he would buy me flowers, and it's a beautiful thing, but part of me would go, ugh, because I would just think, it's the practical streak in me. And I don't know if it's like a working class thing or something that you maybe forget when you make millions and millions of dollars. But I loved that she brought that up because it's very important to her marketing.
See, but I didn't think that I didn't think that it was a relevant argument in terms of convincing somebody that there was really a market until she said her numbers. When she said her numbers, I mean, she had sold a lot.
Well, she had sold 2.8 million in the first year and a half, and all through her website.
That's insane.
And to that end, I do love flowers myself, and I'm not into the paper ones. But that said, I know someone who got married a couple of years ago, and she had a paper bouquet.
But if
and
you
she
can only think of one person, that's not a huge market. That's the issue that I have, and that's what the Sharks were saying too. They're like, which would you prefer? And all of the ladies said, I wouldn't prefer I wouldn't prefer paper flowers.
When I think of paper flowers, I think of prisoners and how prisoners will make origami flowers for people.
Really?
Wow,
That's like a huge market in prison. Like, they make flowers out of toilet paper, and you couldn't tell that, like, no way, this is made out of toilet paper.
But then you think of prisoners a lot.
my head is about to explode right now. I don't know what I'm more shocked by. That this is apparently something people know about with paper flowers in prison, or that like it's a thing with paper flowers in prison. I think of only paper flowers, like people selling them on the street.
Yeah, I didn't know the prison thing. Where'd you
blown.
get the prison thing?
I watch a lot of TV.
But it's not just paper, and that's what she's trying to say. And I saw her getting a little testy, and I don't blame her because her bouquets were very beautiful. There's a difference between like a silk polyester flower from the dollar store and what she was putting together. And what she was putting together was really great, and we didn't even see half of it.
But if
there's a differential.
If a guy brought if I went to a hotel room, I was trying to think of this. I was like, where would I be okay seeing flowers that weren't real? And it's like, I felt like maybe there was a corporate market for it or something like that in places where they only want to purchase once and they don't want to, restaurants and things like that. But then I thought, people like the real thing.
all non-live flowers are not the same, and I'm telling you, there's a little
They're
difference.
not
And there could
created
also be a sub target that she could do. I don't think she's there yet, and maybe this will down the road. But people that are talking about being sustainable in terms of I have a
Well, it's
big
eco flowers. I mean, that's the whole point, right?
And I think
I
also,
know she's maybe not there yet.
I think also there's a really big difference in how the flowers look, and maybe to me some of hers looked like the types of flowers that you do see street side, whereas like I love crafting and I'm in a lot of crafting groups, and while I don't make flowers, I see a lot of people post some flowers that they've made and they look in the photos like real flowers and not just sort of those basic ones that you see, but like beautiful lilies and things like that, and they're able to dye the paper in such a way, and they're really amazing.
See, I would think though, like if let's say you had a fight with your significant other, and you got to go make your significant other happy, and you stop by the flower store and you see the paper flowers and you see the real flowers, which do you buy?
Well, I said all along, I want the real flowers. That said, I have cats at home who vomit when they eat anything that is alive, so I don't have anything alive in my house.
Right.
So I can't keep flowers in my house because my cats vomited them up. So in that instance, the paper would be great.
Yes, and some of them are scented as well. So it really depends on the status of the relationship and the woman. So there's a lot of differentials that you're going to be calculating
This
at
is
the
true.
old flower store. You're going to be putting it all in your calculator and
So do you
figuring
want it to
out.
last longer because the relationship's going good, or do you give it to her on the way out because she's not quite worth the real flowers anymore?
No, I think these are expensive. I mean, these
Yeah,
flowers.
they're not no dollar store
Right.
polyester.
No, I know. It was a
situation.
nice bouquet. There
That
was a good
said-
margin.
That said, it's $59 for the bridal bouquet, which is
Great margin.
significantly less than you would normally pay for a bridal bouquet. So although
Right.
it sounds expensive, that's really not
But if you're
that
getting
bad.
married, do you want paper flowers at your wedding?
Well, I know someone who did.
See, that's the thing.
One
Everybody's
person, but how many people have gotten married?
Well, more than one.
More than one.
$2.8 million gross in a year and a half.
Yeah, well, see, that was
CHL.
no. I think that's what I think was really so impressive was that this girl. So that speaks a tremendous amount about her character, about her desire to go and make this thing happen, and the fact that she was inspired by Shark Tank to launch this entire business, and then goes out and makes $2.8 million in a very short period of time is just ridiculous. I think she shocked everybody. She shocked me. She shocked the sharks. She didn't shock you, apparently.
One of the things that was
I love
also
her.
really interesting about her is that she realized that coming on Shark Tank would give her a bump in sales, and also she wanted to be able to say to them that she had a bump in sales. So she took out an ad, and
Right.
she got $100,000 in sales in just the day before she came on the show. $25,000 of that was for weddings, but she did say usually about $6,000 to $13,000
And she spent
So-
$4,000 extra on the ad.
on the ad.
That's pretty good. A pretty good return.
That's a
you
great
do that all day if you could. Yeah.
So the way it broke down is that she spent $700 of her own money. She does have a business partner who owns 25%,
this was
and
the
then
horrible
she
part.
also went to an investment firm, and they put in $30,000 for 50%. So really, she does
She got
not own
reamed.
a
I
lot of this
know.
company. She only owns 25%, which also explains why she was only offering the 10 to begin with. Basically, everyone said they weren't really into it until we got to Damon, who said that he would offer the $400,000, but for 25%. She did counter at 20, so that all of them would be equal partners, and got a deal. Were you surprised by the deal?
I was surprised that she got any offer whatsoever with the dilution of equity that she had. She only had 25% of the company herself. So she really wasn't. I mean, if she was planning on having her partners be bought out, she should have come in saying, we're going to buy my partners out for X amount. This is what I want to buy them out. But just that secret piece of information that doesn't come out until the end, that she only owns 25% of the company she's pitching, is ridiculous. I'm just shocked that she got an offer.
Well, I also thought that was a little bit nebulous because she said, well, they'd be open to being bought out for the right amount. So I also think if
What's
she
that?
had the, well, I think exactly, if she had the idea that she would come in and say we'd buy them out, I think the partners knew she was going on Shark Tank and said, we're not selling. We know there's going to be a bump in sales. So I think that they probably wouldn't give her that amount beforehand. And I suspect that after the Shark Tank bump, they're not going to want out then either.
Well, now that they got her working for them full time at only a fraction percentage ownership, it's like she's basically working for them. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we go through with our in or out, I have to say that unfortunately the Wi-Fi was not working. But Fantasy Stats Guru, I'm assuming you're in the chat, so thank you for watching, and we will catch up on your comments afterwards.
Are we going to do our shark tip?
Well, we don't have a shark tip at the moment,
Like
but
our
let's go.
takeaway.
Well, my takeaway is this is a cautionary tale to not give away the store. As you see, look
agree.
at what she did in terms of the equity, and she did talk. She was in dire straits, and oh gosh, how can you avoid that? You know, if you can avoid that in any way, shape, or form. I just got to interview a great woman, Meredith Baer. She is the biggest stager. She stages homes, real estate. She's national. She's going international. And I specifically asked her, and she goes, one of the ways I was able to keep a very even keel through the explosive growth of her company is, she goes, every time I made a dime, it went back in the company. She goes, it allowed me to sleep at night. And we talked about that, enabling you to have, again, this confidence and the joie de vivre and not feeling like you're in hell.
Yeah, the richest companies in the world will hold on to as much equity as possible, or the richest people in the world for as long as possible, because it's going to be worth more later down the line.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm not putting Megan's my working class hero, so I'm really sorry that that's the situation, you know. And I almost think that Damon really was rooting for her, and maybe even though he is a shark, he is a businessman, that maybe that was part of it. He wanted to help her. That was just my feeling.
Or be in a partnership with somebody who could turn nothing into $2.8 million in a short period of time.
Yes, which is impressive. So, Constance, would you be in or out?
Oh, I'd be in. I'd be in.
I'm gonna go out unless they talked about a corporate market. I think there could be something there, but I'm out.
I'm going in. I think that even though I'm not necessarily a fan of the flowers, that I wouldn't want them in exchange for real flowers. I'd rather have the real thing. I definitely see a market for it, whether it's corporate or bridal, for people who want it. So I am in. And hey, Megan, if you're listening, if you're watching, we would love to show off your beautiful flowers. So send some on in.
And we'll put your flowers right here in the middle. And
talk about how great they are. So, and before we get into Style Club, let's also remind you guys, if you are listening to us on iTunes, don't forget, you can review us there, leave us 5 stars. If you are watching us on YouTube, you can also subscribe, comment, we'll respond. And thank you. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, which I feel like I can't say without thumbs upping myself.
Thumbs up, yeah.
So, Style Club Hillary, she was asking for $500,000 in exchange for 20%. And basically, she owned clothing, and it got picked up for Urban Outfitters, which is really impressive. That's a big chain.
She was in a lot of locations, too.
She was in all their locations, and she's also selling her stuff on websites on the web. Yeah, I said websites twice because now Constance pulled up our. I see myself moving in the corner of my eye. Basically, she's sold $400,000 worth, mostly retail, in about 3 to 4 months. But $300,000 of that is for this one hat, this babe hat with eyes on it. Now, did it surprise you that that was the big seller?
Totally, $300,000 from one hat is crazy. That's like it was a cause for concern too. Why are they making everything else? It's like, what's the point of the rest of the inventory if 300 of the 400,000 came from a single hat?
Yeah, that's kind of. Why isn't the other stuff selling as well? Maybe we need to talk about redesign. Yeah, please.
Can we talk? I mean, I follow style quite a bit. It's a niche of mine, and this surprised me because it's a very standard-looking baseball cap. It's something that's not new and exciting and millennial.
But
it's just
it was just kind of the words,
babe,
right?
With eyes and on eye, like I can't even see. That would be.
Is it like Total Babe or something?
They were supposed to be like closed eyes, so you had the little sort of U shape with eyelashes coming down for anyone who didn't see it, or if you're just listening, so you can't see us gesturing with our hands wildly. But it said babe, and it had what basically looked like closed eyes with eyelashes.
Yeah.
Just a baseball hat.
I just want to do a quick shout out to Fantasy Stats Guru, because he's writing in here and says, sad day that Cam can't make it to the show. We know. But congrats to him that he's moving on to more stuff. He had said a couple of things about the flowers here, but we're beyond that now.
Sorry, Fantasy Stats.
Yeah, sorry, Fantasy Stats. Get with the program. No, but thanks for being there with us.
Yeah, I always like having Fantasy Stats around. He feels like the 4th panelist.
There you go.
So just there's a one
like
door shuts and a window opens. So Cam's gone and in comes Fantasy Stats.
That's very true.
I didn't really understand this thing when she started presenting it. It was like I didn't get it. She's talking about clothing, but then she's saying you can watch our music videos. I'm like, what is this?
I had that same feel, and I thought that it was almost like too cool for school feel, that she has like these people there who are the live mannequins and they're posed, and they were there the whole time, and I just felt like I needed more.
I just wanted to understand it, like what was it? And then she said we have all these influencers, which is, that's how marketing is done, is through social influencers, or people that can, carry the message for you. They're soldiers in the field going off to battle for you. But I was just confused for a long period of time, and then until I heard that she got It was an American Apparel. Is that what we said?
Urban Outfitters.
Urban Outfitters. Same thing. No, just kidding. Urban Outfitters. But then she got that, and she got so much of a commitment and traction. But then to hear that she had signed the exclusive deal with them, it's like, boy, she just cut her nose off right there. But she's got a lot of purchase orders that are out into the future, which is a good thing. I don't know. I didn't see what was so unique about this, and I really didn't see the value in this. It seemed to me that she didn't have a proper business model in place yet, quite frankly. I just felt like I'd be gambling on
that was a big problem.
A nebulous cloud.
With the sharks that said no to her, they did point to essentially not enough data. So, right? And that's something I remember from my forecasting days in graduate school, that it was really hard to build models, forecasting models, when you didn't have a lot of data to base them on. And that's one of the issues. I thought she gave a great presentation, my gosh, with the models. I understood the business very
Did you?
well.
Right off the bat?
Very much. Huh. And I'm surprised that more people were not fighting and clawing and scratching. But the having a not enough data.
Yeah, I would need to see see the stats. This is how we've got X amount of social influencers. Each of them have this amount of, and she did that pretty well. She did say we've got up to, what was it, like 50 million via the social influencers. Okay, I get that. But how much have you sold through that? And the answer is she sold zero through that. She had sold it all through retail.
Exactly. So there's no point to what she is pushing, essentially. I think what's so difficult with clothing, and we've seen clothing a lot in the Shark Tank, is that it's such a personal thing. So you're essentially hiring or buying into a designer, I think, more than anything. I mean, we talked about clothing 2 weeks ago. We've got clothing now. You're buying the designer.
Exactly.
You're not buying their company, I don't think.
And well, I think you're right. And it's like, and what did she prove that she could design and sell? A hat.
Right.
Gosh, wow, people were rough on her. It's so weird. I don't know why I understood her business so much. The videos she was making, the whole army of the social influencers, even though it hadn't been realized yet. That I thought she had proved that, look, she could move a lot of merchandise. It doesn't matter whether it's just with one retailer. She can do it. She is set up to do business.
A hat.
I don't think the issue is that it's just a hat. I think that the Sharks made a good point that she's basically not diversified. So if the store goes under, that's it.
That was interesting.
So I think that was their big concern, a lot of them. And Lori thought that she would go a different way entirely with the business, which is why she was out.
If she had come in with not just having the store, but also having a significant amount of online sales, then you'd have something to talk about, because now you got two channels that are coming in. It's like, okay, here's our stats here. Here's what we've accomplished on the retail side. And therefore we had the valuation that we do. But I just didn't, it was way too nebulous on the retail for me.
And I think that's exactly where it comes into that you're buying into a designer, because the only way then that she can sell aside from Urban Outfitters is to do new designs, which are then unproven, because right now the only thing that's selling essentially is her hat.
Yeah.
So, but again, we were only talking 3 to 4 months that she'd been in.
And which is amazing how much revenue she did in 3 to 4 months. But, just, the kind of the promise and the talk around social influencers, a lot of people talk about that. So I think hence the reason why, okay, yeah, good idea, but let's see some action.
Yes, and that's actually, it's funny, I moderated a panel, a fashion panel, actually, for the American Marketing Association, and that was one of the topics that were brought up, because some social media influencers, particularly in the fashion style space, are getting lots of money, like crazy amounts. I don't even want to put the wrong one out there, but it was like my mind went, my eyebrows were going up when they were saying, and they go quantifying what we're getting. The value is not, a lot of that money is going away because it's like the gig is up in a sense.
Well, and it's gonna continually increase because of advertising costs and all that type of stuff. But the thing is that, I remember when my business, when I was launching, people were like, just go be on Oprah. It's like, go be on Oprah. Okay, that's not a business strategy. What's your business strategy? Social influencers. Right. And it's like, that's your bit, it's like, okay, just give me some stats. Show me what you've done with social influencers. Show me what,
It's kind of like the tech boom. It's kind of like, what's your strategy?
Oh, you're doing social influencers. Great. Here, take 400,000.
It's like 1999. I've got a website, dude. Everyone's going to love it. What's your strategy? I've got a website.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I've got a website. Yes. Good.
Venture capital money. Here you go.
Get this.
$5 million.
Email.
You're going to call it E for electronic.
Yeah.
Pets.com. E-toys.
Can we do just the tip?
Actually, I know someone who owned pets.com and sold it, and is doing very well.
Oh, they sold it probably at the right
I think he
time.
sold. I don't think he
because
owns
I
it
had
anymore,
friends
yeah.
working at a lot of these companies.
At any rate, so she did get a couple of offers. Hillary got one from Damon, 500,000, but he wanted 33.33%. She also got an offer from Mark, who said that right up front he was not willing to team with anyone. He would do the 500,000, but he would do it as a line of credit. He would then ask for 8% interest, which is versus the 10 to 12, which is more common, and then for 22% equity. So if you followed that, that's slightly more equity than she was initially offering at 20%, but it would be also a line of credit, not, or excuse me, an interest loan, not just money, which sounded scary to me. But
she has
she
to
said
pay that
yes.
back. That's the thing.
Right, and
500
she
grand
said-
she has to pay back.
And she said yes to Mark immediately.
I think she should have said yes to Damon.
That's what I thought,
Yeah.
and I know why she probably went with Mark is because of the glitter and the tech space and the major push, and because he doesn't say yes a lot, but when he does, he's pretty much all in.
Yeah.
But I thought that the same thing. We were giving up equity for an 8% loan, loan
that
plus
she has to
equity,
pay back.
And still 22% equity.
Exactly,
interest.
exactly.
Yeah.
I agree. I would have hit.
Give 10% more to the guy who knows clothing.
Yeah.
And have him on board with you, and then you don't have to pay the 500 grand back in the beginning of a business. That's a tough burden to
She
carry.
got taken in by the steak, the sizzle on the steak. I
The
thought,
sizzle on the steak.
if I can speculate.
I
We're
think
gonna do
so,
just that
too.
tip.
So before
The
we
tip.
move on, why don't you go ahead since you're eager to do a
Okay,
tip?
like the tip.
Chris
I
Howard
think,
can do this one.
Yeah, this is a shark tip, right?
Okay.
So the shark tip on this one is, I think with her, what are we talking about? The clothing, right?
And that's Chris's tip.
No, I think my tip is this. My tip is that you really do need to get stats. You can't sell a business on conjecture or something that you cook up in your head. I think one of the big problems was also that she was in an exclusive deal with the clothing store, with the retail outlet. So to even be talking about what she was going to do online was premature because she didn't have the right to do anything online, to sell anything online. So my tip is to get those stats, get a track record of success that somebody can build a model on.
Although it's interesting that you say she couldn't sell anything online because that part wasn't clear. She has an exclusive deal with Urban Outfitters. Is that for anything she designs, or is that for only these current designs? Because her deal with them is through 2017. She said she has the purchase orders through then, but it was not clear if that's for anything she designs in the future.
Right, and she could always be doing it under a different umbrella company as well. And yep.
So, moving right along to Safe Catch, we had Brian and Sean who were asking $600,000 for 3%. That is a small percent. Basically, they have a machine that will test mercury in fish. Additionally, they've started their own line of tuna. So, did you want to taste the tuna? Because I really did.
Same here.
I'd be into tasting it.
Yeah. So basically, if you guys are listening and or watching right now, we would also love to showcase your tuna right in the middle of the desk and talk about how amazing it tastes.
We want the cupcakes even more, but we'll get to that.
We're not at cupcakes yet.
Not cupcakes with the tuna sauce.
So the big thing with the machine is that they said it costs, or excuse me, not with the machine, but with the canned tuna, is that it costs them $1.20 to make. It sells for $2, and then it retails for $3 to $4. Now you can buy canned tuna fish for something like 10 cans for $1. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it is very inexpensive.
79 cents.
It's very
No
inexpensive.
kidding, because they were saying, she had said that they were priced pretty evenly with most of the stuff that's out there. That's not the case.
No, they said they were higher, but they didn't make it seem like they were significantly higher.
Right.
To me, $3 to $4 is a significant difference.
yes.
I mean, are you guys worried about eating tuna because of the mercury?
I'm not, but I know that there are people who would consider that, and if they've got safe catch versus not, I think that could be a very big selling point.
Like a Whole Foods thing.
I thought the valuation on this was ridiculous, utterly ridiculous,
They got it.
utterly ridiculous.
And it was a little scary. So they had put in $900,000, and they had $900,000 in debt as well. They're in 2,100 stores right now, and they have sold $1.25 million worth, and but they've lost $530,000 already.
14 million.
They
burned
yes,
through.
what they had
Wait,
prior they had invested $14 million, and then the guy came in and bought it up for $1 million.
But that
bought the
didn't
assets.
count. But right now they're losing.
No, I know, but
$530,000.
we say
They
it doesn't
didn't count
count
that.
because it doesn't count in his mind, but it did in the mind of the Sharks. They're like, "What are you saying? You just threw away $14 million on this previously. This is utterly ridiculous, and you're losing the $500,000, and you get the $900,000 debt." It's like, what are you saying? And that's going to make me want to buy this ridiculous amount for 3%. I just thought it was utterly ridiculous.
They were not impressed.
No.
They were not impressed.
I thought this was the best example I've seen of not having a clear business in mind, because I thought that the machine was a business that you go to.
I was trying to figure that
where
too,
they
yeah.
go to fish stores or wherever they're going to test Whole Foods, wherever they buy their fish from, whatever. That machine to me was one business. Canned tuna is a whole separate business to me. Why do they even talk about the machine? It didn't have to be there. And I also felt like the machine was slow.
Right?
I mean, it was going
They're like,
and going.
does that result come up yet?
I mean, they said they can do, I think, like 1,000 tests in a day. I don't have that number. Oh, yes, I do have that. The machine can test 1,000 a day. But it felt very slow to me, and using the syringe, and I don't know. So I would have been fine with one product or the other, but both together, I felt like...
You know what this reminded me of was the Doggie Pee Stick.
How on earth did this remind you of that?
Because, I mean, who's going to go check the pee of their dog? And then who's going to take the little salmon piece of flesh or the tuna piece of flesh to put in the meter? Or it kind of reminds me of the little glass that you look through the glass to see the suntan lotion on your kid.
Oh. Okay, so anyone, first of all, who hasn't seen last season, what Chris is referring to with the Doggie Pee Stick is that there was an entrepreneur who came on and who realizes that you can check a lot of things with urine, and so you could take basically a piece, essentially litmus paper that you put in your
Test the
dog's
health of your
urine
dog
to check the dog's health, and so.
But you have to
that's the
hold it
Doggie Pee
underneath
Stick.
the dog
as it's going, so
to get the sample.
that is what he's referring to.
Or you got to look through this little monocle to see the sun if the sunscreen's done evenly over your child.
And last
or
week
you have
we
to
talked
get the
about
flesh of the
sunscreener.
flesh of the tuna, put it in your big contraption that you bought to test the level of mercury.
How
It
about
just
you get a
seems-
product that combines all three? The pea stick,
There you
the
go.
sunblock
Know
thing,
your dog's
the tuna.
You test
one
your tuna.
machine.
And that's why also with this machine, I felt like I didn't even need this demonstration because
It didn't have to be there.
it didn't have to be there. We're syringing the test. You're not going to do that. Like, it's not a
Just
home
say we
machine
figured out the way how to get
to
it.
check it.
To check it, right.
And even at like Whole Foods, what are you going to, before you buy your fish, you're going to ask them to syringe a piece out.
We
to
can
prove
give you
it. You're
safer
gonna
tuna.
Right, you're
We
just
figured it
going to
out.
trust Whole Foods
Right.
that they know what they're doing and they've picked safe fish. So
But the problem is they didn't have, to your point, they didn't have a business model beyond the machine. All they created was a machine. They thought, you know what? Let's talk about safe tuna.
yeah. Like, we have a machine, let's
Yeah.
make a brand to go
Yeah,
with it.
exactly.
Yes. I thought they would have done far better to only have the machine, quite frankly, and not get into this high-end tuna
I
market.
thought the machine was just too, like, I just didn't see it. Like, is a restaurant really going to say our tuna is safer and then they're going to measure their 1,000 fish a day?
But not from the restaurant. I think they're doing it from where they buy the fish at the source.
So they're going to
the-
license the machine to somebody or sell the machine to
I think
somebody?
the machine would be purchased by, I don't know, what do you call people who sell fish? Like, to the distributor or whatever it is.
suppliers.
The suppliers. Thank you.
Suppliers
I
to
don't
say,
know why I can't
This is a
think of
higher
those,
level
you know.
of...
Right.
But
so,
how much could they charge for the machine? And how many would they sell, really? You know what I'm saying? It's like
right,
if
I
they-
guess how many people are
Right, how many
actually doing-
distributors are they? They have what they need 1, 2, 3. How many machines do they need?
Great point.
Yeah,
Well,
so it's
I
like-
might be out
Right.
now.
So on a
I
presentation,
was going to be in on just the machine, but you make an excellent point.
from a presentation perspective, it always goes to the idea is like just keep it really, really, really simple because they're enmeshed in their business. They really understand it. It makes sense to them. And naturally, when you have a business, you become very attached to it. So they started getting, I thought, a little prickly. When they were getting some pushback from the sharks, they got a little prickly, and I think that that's something that you always have to manage. You know, when we're watching the condensed version of this situation on TV, naturally some things are put for dramatic effect, but the prickliness, you can be strong, but to seem visibly annoyed, which is hard to do. I mean, I'm not judging them because I understand that this is their blood, sweat, and tears. You know what I mean?
And they're 14 million.
Yeah, they're 14 billion G's. But we saw that in a couple of them tonight where they had their preconceived notion of what they wanted to talk about. Here they wanted to talk about how big the fish market is, and that's whenever I hear people saying, "But this is $1 trillion market. This is this." We don't care,
Right.
Because what we care about is how much of that can you get.
Yes.
And so
Right.
people think that they can
Precisely.
throw out these numbers and
4
that it sounds
billion.
Yes.
impressive to the investor, and it doesn't.
Yes.
They don't care about that. They want to know how are you going to tap into that, which is what these guys just weren't providing. They weren't providing anything, and it's such a ridiculous valuation.
It's kind of like the first line in that Adam Smith book from probably
Oh, that
a few
book.
hundred years ago,
Yeah.
where he said, always speak to a man's interests.
Oh, I like
So
it.
just go in, don't think about yourself and your blood, sweat, and tears. Just think about what, talk to their interest only.
Well, it's my turn for a shark tip before
Yes.
we are in or out.
Yes.
And my
Shark
shark tip on this one is definitely, if you are going to have a business, be clear about what your business is. Not your business model even, but your product. And don't make new products when you don't have to. So, Constance, are you in or out on Safe Catch?
Oh, I'd be out.
You're out. I'm out.
I'm out as well. It sounds like we are unanimous on that.
We're all out.
I know.
Yeah,
Fantasy
Kind of a bummer.
stats, are you in or out?
Yeah, Fantasy Stats said that a little earlier that
Oh, God, we gotta.
well, people aren't going to be testing their own tuna. It's the company who does
Right.
one.
Right.
Right. And he did mention that also Chris is just throwing his tip all over the place.
Oh, would you please stop fantasy stats?
Okay,
Right.
so moving along to our final product of the night was Be Somebody, which makes me want to say, do we want to say tag Be Somebody, hashtag Be
It was
Somebody?
hashtag. He had a hashtag in front of it.
He had
yes,
it, but
he
he
did.
never said it.
That's true.
So now I feel like, how do I say this
Do you feel
product?
lost?
I feel a little
Do you
lost.
feel like you're
so
not somebody?
I'm going to call it Be Somebody, parentheses, possibly with a hashtag. So his name is Cash. He was asking, here's another biggie, $1 million for 10% of his business. Basically what this business is, and he did have a really cool presentation, which we'll talk about, but basically what this business is that if you are interested in any sort of adventure or something that you want to learn, you can go on his app and find experts who will teach you. So let's say you want to learn how to be a better soccer player, you can go on the app, find someone who isn't even an Olympian necessarily, but someone who just loves soccer, and they'll teach you. So it's trading your skills essentially.
See, did you see it
online.
that way? I kind of thought it was more the personality types, because why wouldn't you, if it wasn't the Olympian soccer player, why wouldn't you just go online and look for karate studios or soccer teams? And
Well, and that's exactly what I wondered, why no one brought that
Right.
up, because
Right.
I don't think you had to be famous. He did have a very impressive Olympian
Yeah, I
as
think you're
part
right.
of his demonstration, but it did
Yes.
not appear that you had to actually
because he said if you
be
want to
an
learn
Olympian.
ninja skills, you can go to this ninja. But still, those are people that you could probably contact online.
Separately, right, which is
Right.
why I did not understand why you would go to his app.
Right. What'd you think?
Yeah, and this is such an interesting presentation for us because it really teaches us about all branding, no business.
Right.
Right, you need a little brand, you need a little amuse-bouche, you need a little excitement, a little glamour.
That's
but you
what
have to
he
know
was
when
all
to
glamour.
zip it. You know, it has to be just given out in little doses, just enough to titillate, to get them interested, to get them on your side, to get them
Titillate?
love
I think it's
you.
titillate.
How is it?
Titillate.
Okay, titillate. Tipillate. Anywho, and this was Exhibit A of that. We always learn on Shark Tank, and this week is no exception. But this one is a
Right.
big one that is a problem that sometimes happens because of all this inspiration, this everyone's going to be
But
a
you hear
star.
people talk that way though too. Like you hear people that are kind of. I was thinking kind of. I said airy fairy. You know, and I love everybody, but it's
Except for me.
yeah, except for you, and she's
me,
all right. Yeah,
apparently.
Chloe's okay.
Zoe did.
But Zoe did. So why? But yeah, it was just all concept. Be somebody. You get to be somebody, and it's like, you know. I suppose it was what was interesting to me was the idea of being the matchmaker between big name people that you could get access to that you couldn't get access to them any other way. I think that kind of is being a promoter of these big name people, and I'm going to give you access that you couldn't get anyplace else.
Well, it just does not make much sense to me
Right.
because if they're big enough, they have agents. So if you really wanted them, but there's a high cost, so why would they do this for low cost? And if you have not had a chance to actually see the episode yet, basically in his presentation, he would say to the sharks, hey, do you feel like you want ninja skills? And then he had someone come in and do really cool stunts with a giant tire. And then, hey, if you feel like you want to learn Bollywood dancing, and he had some Bollywood dancers come in. So basically he was showing us different things that you could, different
Right.
scenarios, different skills that you could try out. So it was a really neat presentation just in terms of watching, and I loved the dancing, things like that.
What I thought was kind of cool about his app was how you put in what your interests were, and it lines you up with potential people that you could connect with. I thought that was kind of cool.
But
you
it
know?
wasn't people as much as it would line you up with activities.
Experiences.
So, experiences. So if you were interested in whitewater rafting, it would give you maybe the top whitewater rafting location.
Yeah, but see, that's the
And
search
I
engine
don't-
that will do that.
I
Yeah.
agree. So the only thing I can think with this product in particular is that you have to be, this would have been like a good one for Chris Sacca, because you have to be at least farsighted enough to say like, oh, Instagram, well, doesn't Facebook already have photos? So you're basically doing the same thing. Okay, I'm going to invest. I mean, it's
So is it-
essentially, you have to be looking ahead enough, I guess, that
think you get a
while it's
point.
the same thing, I'm going to put enough money into it to make it bigger than the same thing.
Right. That makes sense to me. I think you get a point there, and it's the idea. See, I think where you could have something is the idea that we're gonna get, because right now we have access to celebrities like we've never had before through via social media and stuff. But if you had access to buy that person's attention, where they're going to come and spend lunch with you or come and do this with you, but stars would, if the price is right.
Well, that's exactly it. If the price is right, so you could call their agent, like for
but
instance.
People won't do that.
Well, of course they won't, because maybe they don't have $50,000 to spend on it. But people who do have $50,000 will just call their agents and set it up.
What if you could go hang out with? Well, I'll use Corey Feldman because you just saw him. What if Corey? You say, hey, Corey Feldman, for $5,000. You're going to go and have lunch with this person, or you're going to go and do something.
But how is that different from contacting his agent? And of course he has an appearance
because
fee
people aren't going to go out reaching out to agents, and this is essentially where it's like, these people, you could go and have lunch with these people. This one's $500. This one's $5,000. This person will go rollerblading with you.
I don't think they want that. That's why they have agents to begin with.
But I think. I would actually beg to differ. I think that a lot of
beg to differ.
No, I think a lot of people would love to monetize their time more effectively, because they're these, they do a film when they're 8 and they don't have anything to do anymore. Macaulay Culkin, poor guy. But you look at that and it's like, would he, if you gave him $10,000, would he come and go skydiving with you, or
All right, this is so weird.
It's like you're paying for your best friend. So as we wrap this up, basically, he has been doing this for 1 year in Austin, Texas already. And he did make $2,000 last month. That's it. Everyone is basically out because Barbara was pretty harsh. She said she found him annoying. Everyone was also really worried about liability if something happened during the actual experiences. So he did not get a deal. Everyone disliked him. It was kind of sad. Before we get into in or out, Constance, do you have a Shark Tank tip? That was like a tongue twister. A Shark Tank tip.
Well, Mark Cuban, I think, hinted at it when he said, you're doing a lot of talking. So again, he gave a very lively, very animated presentation, but it could have been a lot shorter, right? So it's like, give the amuse-bouche, which is, just to clarify, because it's a great little term I learned recently, so I'm throwing it around. But it's this little thing that you're sometimes given at a restaurant. It's just like it's like a mini appetizer, and it's meant to
tickles your tongue,
to get the palate kind of going and salivating, and to get excited about your courses that are to come. So it is amuse-bouche. I don't know how it exactly translates. Suffice it to say, that is the idea of the pitch. So there was a lot of wind-up, too long of a wind-up, and they get annoyed.
And he didn't listen.
Yes.
He didn't listen. He kept trying to go and convince them of something that they didn't want to hear. He thought that he knew that if he could just get them enrolled in the passion, and that's not what they wanted to hear. They wanted the nuts and bolts. So it's like, pay attention to what they want and give them what they want.
Right. And honestly, I wasn't even clear if he was doing that purposely, if he either was so passionate he had no business sense, or if he had business sense but he couldn't get it. Like, I wasn't even clear at that point, because it was so over the top, where they would say, tell us this, and he'd say, no, wait, I'm going to show you my 8x11 card that says be somebody. What does this have to do with anything? So another Shark Tank bonus tip is, listen, people.
Yes, and we talk about, it's very compelling often when people use their own stories, but to do so in a very prudent, in a very selective way, and to do so in, again, a measured way. It's about the art of the pitch. And for instance, he talked about his time at Procter & Gamble and GoPro, and that was interesting, where he talked about he would turn 30 and he was looking at his life. That was the part that was compelling, and then it's like, zippy, stop there and go into business.
Absolutely. So, Constance, were you in or out on Be Somebody?
I was out.
It's interesting. I like the idea, but and he even had a lot of energy and stuff, and I think that talk about mission and be somebody and the black sign and all of that stuff can work when you're firing up the troops, not with investors, but when you're firing up the people that are going to be pushing the brand and that type of thing. So I like the idea. I wouldn't give him the kind of money he wanted for it. But maybe if he wanted to give 60 or 70% of the business for the other, and he was going to work it full time, maybe
for
that
$1 million.
How much did he ask? Oh, he asked for $1 million. You're out of, no.
And so I would be out as well. And just to say also, Fantasy Stats, we were able to get the chat up on screen. So excited to see that. And we agree with you. I think that you would definitely need a lot of exclusivity deals with big names, like you say, because right now
that's what I said. Damn it!
It doesn't count when Chris Hart doesn't
Stats says it, and you're in.
So as we wrap things up, there was an update on Wicked Good Cupcakes, which Kevin talks about a lot. That's a company that he bought into. Basically, they sell cupcakes that are in a jar, and apparently they're wicked good. And they're just about to sell, or as of this vignette, they had sold their 1 millionth cupcake jar. Before they were on Shark Tank, they had sold $100,000, and since then they have sold $10 million. They have also gotten a 21,000 square foot facility. They're up to 30 plus employees, and they even have partnerships like with Cinnabon. So
That's
we
insane.
are dying to try these cupcakes. I have to say, because we're in California, the shipping costs are a little bit astronomical. I looked online. So, but Wicked Good Cupcakes, if you want to send them, we would love to put your cupcakes right here in the center of our table and
We
talk
have
about
a
them.
wicked appetite, and we will taste your cupcakes, and we will proselytize to the world. If this is really what they purport themselves to be, then we'll be in.
See, this is where we get into differences, because you talk about the flowers, and this is where I would not understand the cupcake in a jar.
Listen,
situation.
any way a
I'll understand,
cupcake
yeah.
comes, we'll eat it.
Yes, I think so too. All the way. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of our Shark Tank After Show. Once again, of course, we will be here next week again on Monday night, 10:10 p.m. start time Pacific Standard. Come join us in the chat. Hopefully we will get it working. I'm Zoe Hewitt. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Zoe Said What. That's Zoe Said What. You can also find me on YouTube at Zoe Hewitt Hosting. Where can we find you, Chris?
Chris Howard, find me at Chris Howard Live on Twitter and Instagram. Also go to legendarylivingdaily.com for daily tips, inspiration, motivation, entrepreneurial things, and legendarylivingtv.com for YouTube.
Yes, and when you're not being inspired by CHL or Chris Howard Live to the layperson, you can check me out on Instagram at Constance Dunn or at Twitter, Constance Dunn.
Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.